All right, we are connected for the morning edition of the news update. And as always, looking forward to sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And more importantly, checking in with you guys and seeing what you're keeping your eyes on. So, as always, for those who are plugged in, wherever you're watching from, let me know where you're watching from. Feel free to share thoughts, ideas, and suggestions in the chat or the comment section if you're watching the replay. And I definitely will try my best to answer it according to what I can. But um, I want to talk about silver price distortions as a result of this weekend. And so this weekend was very, very busy, globally speaking, all in results to a lot of noise, as well as the possibility of some force majeure on a globally systemic bank that we are waiting to find out more about if that is the case. And so there's 3 or 4 different lanes that we can take to get to the ultimate question is how much is a real ounce of silver? And that's what I want to focus on, and as well as share with you some interesting, I guess, measuring sticks to kind of make sense of it all. But before I do that, I want to make sure I give people time to check in and let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if my audio is coming in good. I would hate to be talking to my dang self, but we got people checking in from everywhere. I appreciate you for blessing with your presence, as well as if you have not hit that thumbs up button to show your support for the channel. Hopefully the algorithms click in and give people a chance to plug into alternative media where you get a chance to hear a story outside the box. Because if it's within the box, then more than likely it's going to be a lie. And if it's close to the rim or the edges, it gives you a chance to filter through the noise and see what sticks and what doesn't. So that's my goal here. And as always, before I move forward, let me just jump right into it, man. Let me just jump right into it. And so let me just plug along here and give you some information. So as of now, here in the Metro Detroit area, it is 24 degrees, nice and cold. But surprisingly, literally last night, walked outside and it was warm as can be. So I actually hanged out outside for a little bit just because it was so warm last night. But let me know if you guys experienced that same type of anomaly. But once again, nice and cold, nice and windy in Detroit. So let me know where you're checking in from. Let me know what your weather situation like. And also for those who might be new, you never know. I want to continue to remind people and encourage people, test your silver IQ. This is the time to really understand monetary history so you're not deceived and distracted by alternative delusional things that I like to call it. But once again, 15 quick questions help people to open up their mind towards history, things we weren't taught in school. So click the link in the description if you guys want to plug in with that, and we'll go from there. But all right, so I want to jump into it. So this video here was inspired by some videos I did throughout the weekend, all referencing spot price from whether it's Australia, whether it's the Shanghai Futures Exchange price, whether it's the Crimex, whether pick your tool that you use to capture a spot price. It's all wrong, and I'm going to show you why it's all wrong. Because literally, we're at the point now where the world has come to the realization that the spot prices that have been given to us are all manipulated, suppressed, and inaccurate compared to the real clamor to get physical. Because physical tells the difference. And I want to remind people, instead of worrying about or being conscious of necessarily the price, focus on possession, because it's the people who stand between you being able to acquire what you want in the forms of weight that matters. Because it's the bullion dealers, it's the holders of the physical silver when you go to buy it, or if you go to exchange it back into fiat, is where the actual price matters. And I'm going to share with you why I believe that is. So before we move forward, let me just jump into some things and share with you current activity since the last time I checked in, so you can get an idea as to how manipulated this system really is. So I want to bring on the screen right here. Let me get myself out the way here if I can. So this is literally the last couple of hours. And so as I move myself out the way so you can see what I see, give me 1 second here. All right, so let me move myself out of the way. Okay, so literally what we're looking here is literally the last couple of hours of activity. Now, if this doesn't spell criminality, I don't know what does. And so you had an all-time high. Let's just walk through this real quick here. On the overnight markets, it was 83.62. And then, of course, it went down to 77.11, back up to 80.43, down to 74.71 as of 4 12:23 a.m. And of course, over here in the Western Hemisphere, everybody in this world part of the world was asleep. But then again, it's the European markets that was driving this down. And then you look at where we're at now. We're at a measly 71.17. Ooh, I'm scared. Can somebody tell me where you can go right now and buy an ounce of silver for $71? Because you can't. So literally, this activity that we witnessed throughout the night is irrelevant because the futures markets and the physical possession has already been decoupled to where it's the people who hold what you want that's calling the shots. Let me share this with you real quick. Let me just share this with you. Okay, so um this morning I went to the Silver Team store just to check and see what prices were. And I'm looking at, going to look for some of my favorites. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to see if there's some, I always look for sales. A dollar or two or 50 cents or something like that is more likely to sell, especially when you're buying online. So this is all relative. This is all relative information for online activity. And of course, the best place to go is directly to your local coin shops or people that you've developed a relationship with that can actually put in your hands at that moment because they're the ones that's going to be willing to work with you. So literally moving forward, hand-to-hand transactions will probably be more cost effective than buying online because online is about to become somewhat of a monopoly because these are the players that got first dibs on the best quality of gold and silver because they actually have access to the miners or to the refiners to where they can get supply easier. It's going to be your mom and pops type spots that you know personally, which will give you a better deal. But for the sake of this example here, so I go online to the silver store and I'm looking, I'm like, man, it's out of stock, out of stock. I'm like, wow, everything is out of stock. And I'm looking at the prices that they went out of stock at. And so literally my Philharmonics was, last listed at 78.97 out of stock. So literally people have been probably this past weekend buying up stuff according to what they see and or anticipate the prices being come today, Monday. And so we have Kruger's out. We got generic rounds out, and even the Eagles is out. And then there's some other things here that are like, so we got the Don't Tread on Me is out of stock. We have, Litecoin rounds. Look at the last price, 86.97, gone. We have any type of 2025 Patron Saints, $92, gone. And so these were new coins listed to the store and already they're gone. So literally, these are just since I refreshed it, these are gone. And I'm like, man, like so. Literally, there's no price that people may not be willing to pay to get physical, given the uncertainty of what the actual spot price is. And so that led me to believe that, man, it's not about the spot price you see on a screen when you log on or something like that. It's the actual price that you're going to pay when you go to check out. So literally from the time you log on somewhere, you look for something you might be interested in, or you actually try to find something that's on sale. Like I even got a store here where their sale price is higher than their sale price is higher than their actual listed price. And I'm like, that's a typo, but clearly you have all these online dealers behind the scenes. Their employees are literally trying to keep up to date, and you got to talk with management to see what that premium is going to be because every dealer knows that come end of this week in 72 hours, we're going to see a surge in price because of the anticipation of China closing off their markets for exporting critical minerals, especially silver, from their country. Therefore, the supply shock that we're witnessing is going to intensify. And so, literally, who's going to be caught in the middle? The bullion dealers and the coin shops. So, literally, you're going to have a large mass of people looking to get physical, perhaps within the next several days. And so, there's going to be a flood of new buyers potentially. And so, if you're in the business and you want to keep your lights on and pay your bills, you're going to have to make some tough decisions as far as literally charging your customers more. And once again, if you locally, you have a normal shop that you develop a relationship with, you might be able to get some discounts. You might be able to get $1 or $2 off, but you got to realize in order for him to keep his doors open, he's going to have to charge something that allows it to be a profitable business. Because what we have forgotten or may not have paid attention to is the fact that because gold and silver, when it was removed as money from our psyche and became a commodity, therefore commodity that was regulated by price from the future side, started in 1974. From that moment on, we've been basically dismissing and ignoring, I guess, the monetary framework behind gold and silver. And so now online dealers that have become popular and very easy to acquire metals is going to end up facing, I guess, some problems when it comes to operating their business in normal fashion. Because the only reason that we have a mediator between the actual physical possession that we can purchase and the price that we're being given is because of the business structure set up around having people buy gold and silver. And so think about this: if gold and silver has always been money, but we've been conditioned to think it's a commodity, now that it's transitioning back to money, bullion dealers now and coin shops are now going to have to eventually treat gold and silver like money because it's such in high demand moving forward, where the problem will end up being, you know, why would you really want to continue to receive these things here when you know tomorrow's price of whatever you're going to try to sell gold and silver at would probably be less than. And so literally we may get to the point where people may not want to accept, bullion dealers may not necessarily want to accept fiat, but then again, what you going to accept when that's all we know, and it's legal tender within our country, within our borders. So, I can see a parallel economy starting a lot sooner now as a result of this price distortions that we're being exposed to because of a manipulated spot price. While all along, everything in Asia is driven by the renminbi price, which is 80 something dollars. So let's get into that real quick. But for those who are coming in, my whole point is to highlight how online price distortions will continue to fluctuate because there's no way of determining what a real ounce is until you hit the checkout button. Because the price more than likely will change if you don't refresh your page, or it may not go through as an order because the price changed that fast. This is where things are heading. It feels like this week. And what I mean, let's just jump into it real quick. So on the screen, let me get this to you. So I was going through and looking at different dealers. And so here, let me share this with you. So here, this is a online dealer, and this is the cheapest thing this is the cheapest thing in silver on their store online, and it says sale. But as you can see, the crossed out price was 81.87. But the new sale price is 82.87. And then it says 21% off the premium. But look at that. The sale price is $1 more than their listed price, which lets me know is a typo because they're scrambling, trying to, I guess, adjust prices accordingly, maybe according to their inventory or their expectation of what they're going to get in, or just the uncertainties of what the actual price of an ounce is given the increased demand. And so just looking at this here and going back to what the actual physical price is, let me get this to you. So as of right now, we're looking at 71.53, but that one sale round on that website was 82. So that's $11, $10 ish, give or take. And we're supposed to believe that this opening market drawdown of, as it says here above my head, 9.77% in silver is real. Come on now, because you're not going to buy silver for 71.53. Okay, that's just one store. So I went to another one. So as of right now, the cheapest thing on this site, if you use your card to buy 1 ounce, is 80.86. So that's about a $9 or so. So you see 82 the other store, 80 here from their cheapest. And then here we have 80.59. So once again, like, we're going to see your favorite online dealers, the prices vary by either a dollar or two, 50 cents or so, or according to what they have in inventory. And so literally, people will become more selective with what they buy and where they buy from because it's going to boil down to, if you're trying to buy bulk, it's just getting as much as you can of whatever you can when you can, because we're heading into territory where it's going to be hard to actually, I guess, make sense of everything because of the silver price distortion, I believe. Okay, so that's just one thing. So here, this is what we got in the headlines. I'm going to give you some headline activity this morning because the fact that all this happened within the last 24, 48 hours since Friday, you can't hide this. So you got to create a narrative around it. What do I mean? Let's just look on the screen here. So here we have this morning from Bloomberg. It says why silver price has been surging even more than gold. And so once again, highlighting gold and silver, but putting emphasis on silver. And then it goes through a nice lengthy, this is just some ninth lengthy. I'm not going to read it all, but it gives an interesting narrative, but it doesn't really highlight the true reason, I believe. And it has a lot to do with activity out east. So everything here in this article here is user friendly, somewhat accurate, but from the Western point of view, not the Eastern point of view. And when I mean Eastern point of view, what are the Asian regions doing that is putting them in a position of where they feel that they have to unleash the market manipulation that has suppressed silver and gold for decades? And it has everything to do with a lot of the de-dollarization stuff, as well as the government indebtedness and the mistrust, or mistrust is one, but malinvestment from the Western Hemisphere when it comes to the abuse of the reserve currency, aka what we call our dollar, better known as the Federal Reserve note, upon the world. And so the world is making some tough decisions right now with everybody going gold and physical, gold and silver-ish. But silver is the Achilles heel to the monetary structure because it is the most suppressed and the lowest dollar denominated asset out there. And what do I mean by that? Just simply just look at the fact that every other metal that is necessary for manufacturing, technology, health, you name it, are all four digits: 1,500, 2,000, 4,000. And here we are with silver, the most critical out of all of them, $71.61. Am I supposed to believe that's a real price? No. But we're going to find out soon enough. If we were to lump these critical minerals, natural resources from the earth into a basket that reflected true value according to availability above ground and in ground and actual use case in day-to-day items, silver is pretty much in everything. And it's the cheapest out of all four. So to me, that is an anomaly, which clearly China and other nations want to reveal as being a farce. And they're actually going to drive things upward. And so once it crosses into three figures, in my opinion, that's when those 10% moves will become very small. Because think about the compounding effect of 10%. So if it's $100 one day, and then 10% for the next day is $1.10, then $1.10 turns into a dollar. No, I'm sorry, not a dollar. 100, 110, and then the compounding effect from that of 10%, 10%, 10%. And then we're gonna look up and be a couple hundred. Pretty soon, it's like, damn, like where did that come from? That's how fast things can move because the price have been suppressed and manipulated for so long. And this is just on the surface stuff. Okay, so let me get into some other things that I bookmarked that I believe would be of interest to you as well. So I'm going to just run through a list of things that I bookmarked that are noise now until proven otherwise. What am I talking about? Okay, so on the screen here, this is from a guy named David Parker. I don't know him from A Man in the Moon, but let me see. He has 18,000 followers, so clearly people respect his opinion. And so what he shared, a bank just went under, and this was last night. And so it says, as this story is written at 11 a.m. Eastern U.S. time Sunday, some reports have been coming in claiming a systemically important bank, a major player, and the silver futures failed to pay its margin call by 2 a.m. and was liquidated by the futures exchange at 2:47 a.m. Eastern U.S. time, whatever. It says the reports are concealing the name of the bank, but it is confirmed that overnight the Federal Reserve was forced to pump another $34 billion into the banking system through the emergency overnight repo facility. Says this $34 billion is on top of the $17 billion which had to be pumped into 2 days ago on Friday morning. So the bank involved is described as one of the largest players in the precious metals derivatives, blew past every risk limit, breached every covenant, and exhausted its credit line. Then here you have a fact check. The overnight repo shows nothing beyond 17.25. Once again, but not even knowing this, but the New York Fed link being added to this obviously is referring to, as it mentioned in his little clip here, 17.25 was obviously the end of the week's activity, overnight repo. So once again, give it a day or two, we'll find out what's fresh and what's real. But When I saw this and others people talking about this, it didn't surprise me because I shared with you about a week or two ago. Let me see if I can grab it. About JP Morgan and the fact that JP Morgan holds. Let me bring this on. Oh my goodness. They took it down. They took it down. Okay, so I was about to show you an article about JP Morgan holding the largest silver hoard. And so literally I go into the URL, type in JP Morgan because it should populate in my user browser because I've talked about it before. And literally they've taken the article down. And so the up here in the title here, it says, I'll read you what's in the browser. It says, "Is JP Morgan hoarding silver here? Here's what it means as reports claim the bank has been stockpiling precious metals." And so that is the original name of the article, which is in the browser, but it says 404 error, meaning the Economic Times took it down. And so, to my point, I can give you a snippet of what I was talking about. But in that article, it talked about there were 5 banks that were going long silver, 5 bullion banks going long, and JP Morgan held, I think, 470 million ounces of physical silver, and they had futures long contracts, the largest amount. But there was, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, there were 5 banks that were still short. And so when I saw that and I brought that to your guys' attention, I'm like, wow, like there's 5 banks out there that are still short. So either they didn't get the memo that the big boys decided to just go along with it, basically letting it rip, or JP Morgan and the people who sit at the table, because mind you, everything that we're witnessing now, don't think that it's just random. Like, oh, they just decided to let silver rip. No, they're working together behind the scenes. I just rather be on the side of caution than just think, oh, this is our moment. You know, humanity is going to be free for the first time ever. Pumpy brakes, pumpy brakes. Principalities and powers still in power. They just using different methodologies. But at the end of the day, I believe Jamie Dimon, who is the head man of JP Morgan Bank, from that article that told us the reported amount of silver they had, which is taken down now, that there was 5 banks or so that were still short. And I'm thinking like, man, like I wouldn't be surprised if the banks that are going long, because they're able and allowed to go long, more than likely because they have been able to secure a large enough physical holding that put them in position to be able to sit at the table to make, you know, the to make to be a part of the decision making rather. And then you had the 5 banks, more than likely probably some Western banks or some smaller banks that could be used as sacrificial lambs to either allow those banks to fall short and be forced out of the game. So it's more so like if you can't bring weight to the table, then you're not a part of this group no more. You're going to get called out. And so if we are witnessing a systemic bank of some kind that went under, and all this activity happened within the last couple of hours, showing signs of like, you know, selling and dumping and all that stuff like that, then we'll find out the truth eventually. But as always, the globally systemic banks are more important than nations in a sense. So there's always going to be a backup for them. It's called the federal government and the Federal Reserve. They're going to always step up to the plate. Hence the idea of the repo market being tapped and stuff like that. So even though the big boys, you know, may sacrifice some of their own kind, the people who have physical, who probably were in the decision making process for that, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. While all along, clearly in Shanghai and in other parts of the world, they're still driving the physical side of things. So we'll wait and see. There's no need to get all up and in. We'll find out the truth as it always surfaces after the fact. But in between all that, you should just focus on possession, not the price. Okay, so that's just one way of looking at it. Okay, but let me give you a couple more here that I think will be worth your while. So these are just some things I bookmarked, highlighting some of the noise as well as some of the concerns that people may have in reference to the price. So here, Shanaka Pereira does a good job of posting stuff regularly. He put this out this morning, and I was like, man, I got to make sure I mention this. But it says silver, crashed 5% and you panicked. It says Meanwhile, Shanghai kept buying at $82 while your screen showed 72. He says same metal, same hour, $10 gap. It says the gap did not close during the crash; it widened. You are watching a market sell-off. You are not watching a market sell-off. You are watching a paper market get divorced from physical reality in real time. It says CME raised margins twice in 17 days, right into the holiday liquidity when nobody can wire funds. Leverage longs got slaughtered by design. This is not price discovery. This is position liquidation masquerading as a crash. So he's also hinting at the fact that somebody got liquidated. It could have been a big player, more than likely so. But it says here, it says the Chinese are not stupid. They see $72 on the screen coming from the West, and they bid 82 anyway because they know something you don't. Paper settles in cash, factories settle in metal. One price is negotiated, one price is survival. Then it says here Friday morning, export controls go live. 72 hours from now, the arbitrage window slams shut. He says, you think you just saw a top? You just saw the last shakeout before the Western price is forced to catch up to the Eastern one. The screen lied to you today. Shanghai told the truth. And so, based upon that analysis there, what I got from that was when you look at the paper, you look at the physical, the in between has been the contracts and the opportunity for Western Hemisphere come market open for the last several decades to slam the price and to give a distorted reality of what an ounce is actually worth. Shanghai is leading us towards price discovery of the actual physical in your possession when you want it. And so, literally, he's saying that by China shutting off the exporting of important metals, there will be no more opportunity for the east to west flow. And so, therefore, the Crimex and LBMA will be forced to come to the light as far as what they actually hold in their vaults. Because the futures game will literally become a problem because if they can't meet their obligations, they're going to have to do what? Unravel those trades and or exit. And by exiting, you're cutting your paper game short and your manipulation short. Therefore, what's left? The actual price of an actual ounce when you need it in your hand. And clearly, China is showing us what that is. So just for starters. So literally that 82, 83, 84, whatever it is now, it's the starter kit. Because as I showed you a couple minutes ago, you look at the other monetary metals that are crucial, they're all in four figures. We're still talking about two. Wait till we get to three. Then we can have a different discussion as far as what, an ounce of silver might really end up being. That's just my opinion. But it doesn't stop there. I got more for you. I got a lot more for you. Let me give it to you straight all at one time if I can. Let me go back here. Give me a second. And I'll share more things I bookmark, which just helps paint a different picture than what we're being told. Let me see. I got all types of stuff here. Okay. So here is, I'll make this last one just to give you an idea of a narrative from out east. So this is from Silver Santa. He reposted something that Bei Zhongjun reposted. And it says Chinese physical 83.52. LBMA paper 75.50. This was 6 hours ago. It says crazy spread is 10%. We know where silver will be going. East China is still in control. Export restrictions in 3 days. And so here we have the closing benchmark prices of an ounce for today, or which was yesterday in Asia. But as you can see here on the screen, 83.52 for an ounce settled in your hand. And then that's a $2% rather, increase from the previous trading day. And now it's up to 18,797 renminbi and climbing. And then you got the vaults here. How much has left their vaults above my head here? This red, 32,000 kilos, 22,000. So 32,000 kilos left their vaults on Friday and 22 today, where those are, I believe, the settlement of those futures out there into physical. And so because of the drawdown on their vaults, because of the increased surge of everybody wanting physical, I believe that's a part of the reason why they're cutting off exporting metals out of their country to the world because the demand is picking up within their borders. So they got to make sure they got enough to keep their operations open because they've chosen to supply the world with physical, not be reliant upon paper, nothing, IOUs. So once again, this is where we're at now. Complete distortion and decoupling of the paper to reality. Reality means not necessarily the spot price, but the price that you're going to pay when you go to buy something. And so while they're driving it higher out east, the West will be forced to, come to the realization that they can't no longer suppress the price that matters. Because once again, when you go online and you go to your coin store, they're all in a tight spot now because inventory for some is better than others. That therefore they want to keep their doors open. They're going to charge you more when you check out, and or at some point they're going to say, hey, we have to figure out a new method in order to keep these operations running, and therefore, tell them what that next is. But at the end of the day, I remember mentioning this a couple years ago when I was talking with Andy Scheckman from Miles Franklin, and I put forth the question, like, at some point in the future, when everything is kind of starting to be revealed, would it still be worthwhile for bullion dealers to accept paper? And I remember that question kind of stunned him a little bit, but it's like, at some point in the future, like, if your business model is to sell people real money and you get IOU nothings, how much longer will you take that trade before something has to give? And I wouldn't be surprised if 2026 we come to some type of, realization of that trade no longer works for a business model. And so we'll find out which company, it will be a company that's forced to make some tough decisions. And of course, crypto right now is not sufficing because the capturers of it are, suppressing price there as well until they're ready. And so what do I mean by that? Bitcoin is everybody's favorite. And literally over the last several days, I've been having a ball just having some back and forth with the crypto community because for some reason, it becomes such an emotional experience for the Bitcoin community because they are so captured by the idea that Bitcoin is going to free them from, I don't know from what, and it's like the groupthink amongst the Bitcoin ecosystem is so closed off that they don't appear to be open to the idea that gold and silver is supposed to be your first choice because it's real tangible and it's something your great 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 grandfathers used to use and have as a store of value, and all this computer stuff is just 16 years old. So use it as a trade, not as like your life focus. But then again, to each his own. But as you can see here, like, they've been a little bit upset. It got to $90 and slammed down to 86. So that's 4,000. And I'm watching people like, oh man, what's going on? Like, what the heck is happening? I'm like, dude, like, it's just like any other trade. It's manipulated. So be patient. Gold and silver has gone through its thing forever. The truth will always surface. But the fact that people look at gold and silver as the enemy to Bitcoin is like, dude, like, this is all just financial stuff. Like, none of this stuff is important to your salvation. So just use it. Don't let it use you. But that's just my opinion. But to each his own. But anyway, interesting times, man. But as always, for those who are still here, if you've been entertained or educated, either one, hit that thumbs up button. Show your support for the channel. Show your boy some love. Drop a comment. Leave a thought. Leave an idea. I'll check it if I can. Because right now, it'd be too much stuff to go through. And I try to condense all this within 30 minutes if I can. So I can give it to you straight and not sugarcoat it. But definitely, I dropped some nuggets. Hopefully you grabbed them, picked them up, used them, ran with them. And you're better off having hung out here than listening to Fox or CNN or anything like that. So that's my goal. But anyway, be blessed. Be safe.